We're going to start things off with our friends from FC Motown. And with that, it's GM Gregory Irwin, who is getting ready to style and profile like nobody's business. That's the beauty of the green room, is I can sit here and see what everybody's trying to do. I'm going to bring Greg in. Greg, good morning. You're this much closer to a title game, and I know that I'm catching you toward the end of the first half of the U.S. men's national match. So I'll kind of keep an eye on it for the both of us. I won't be doing play-by-play, but I'll be keeping an eye on it. Congratulations on making the last game of the year again in the NPSL.
John, thanks for having me on. It's really a pleasure. And yeah, we're really excited for it. It's been a great year, and we're really fortunate to be playing the team that, stole headlines towards the early part of the year, making it the furthest in the Open Cup. So we're really excited.
When you look at this season on the whole, a question that I like to ask folks is that if I had talked to you before the season started and I had said to you that you would be playing in the last game of the year in the NPSL, what would you have told me?
I would say, especially after, our Open Cup game, it was club expectations to always make it this far, but we were definitely a bit off. And there was definitely that gap. But going into, week one, all those months away, it was get the first result. And that was kind of the high mark with the difficulty. And, some college guys aren't back away. It's still cold outside. You're traveling down to a game 2.5, 3 hours away in AC. It was just about winning week one.
So when you look at this ride with folks that aren't there, your roster's not complete, you're having to juggle things. Okay, it's like I've got these guys coming. How difficult is that for you as a club? And obviously it speaks to the coaching staff and to the guys that are there to navigate all of these hurdles. But how difficult is that for a front office and for a club, knowing that you don't have everybody yet, you're getting everybody, and you think you'll be better down the line? How difficult of a start is that with all the stuff that you have to juggle?
Yeah, so I think had this been year one for me, this is now year three, it would have seen, in the long term, like it comes around eventually. But from experience, you have to start motoring it at the beginning of the season if you're going to make a strong push at the end of the season. And it was quite an ask. It was, we were getting resources from around the club. We were having some vets play. We were having some of our, guys playing through different areas of the club. And it was just about, can we put on a roster just to win the first one? And we knew how difficult it would be if we didn't get that first win.
I think that was me sending out the 280 character notification that you're on the show. That's what that was. When it comes to the environment that is there for someone, and this is going to be played at Drew up there in New Jersey, for someone who doesn't know your footprint and doesn't know how integral soccer is to that part of the country, how would you break down what the sport means and what FC Motown means to the fabric of those that play and those that follow the sport?
So FC Motown is a perfect microcosm of what football should be, right? It's every person from every possible walk of life that you see in the New Jersey, New York area. That's really indicative of what it should be. You have, kids that played in great academies that, go to big time schools alongside guys who work really, hands-on jobs. We have players that are, getting full Division I rides at, top tier universities. And we have guys that are, driving FedEx trucks, working at the airport. And that is the perfect, range that we look for. And it works. And everyone is pushing to say, how can I get the most out of each other? There's no other range you can have that really spreads further than that.
Okay, so who's the driver of the FedEx truck that's on the roster?
He's been our MVP for years on end, Gene Voltaire. We're not releasing roster yet for tomorrow, but he's been a part of the club for a number of years now. Played in our national final back in 2022. Has been a staple. Another big name that's kind of around that ballpark, Mowindo Germain. Played against Austin FC in the CONCACAF Champions League game last year, and one of the best players, at this level of the game, and should be at a higher level in everyone's opinion. But again, it's really just guys that are mixing. And when we see, people come into the locker room right before the game, they're so excited to see each other from every different walk.
Well, if you wanted to break your roster news this morning, you could do that.
Just putting that out there. When you have someone who has that normal 9-to-5 job or 40-hour work week, and they come into the locker room, they come into the FC Motown environment, and they take off their work clothes, their 9-to-5 work clothes. They put on that uniform, they put on that kit, and then they go out and represent. How do you think that rubs off on the rest of the locker room, where you have all of these different walks of life, whether it's the professional athlete, the professional athlete that had a career, the college athlete looking for that next step, the guy that's got the 40-hour work week coming in? How do you think each one of those ideas rubs off on the rest of the roster so you have that cohesiveness where you can be chasing after the title?
Yeah, so I think it goes in two answers. First is we, as a club behind the scenes, or my job behind the scenes, we try and make sure that everyone's role or specifics is what they have to hit the maximum of. The coaches don't worry about player logistics. Players don't worry about anything but playing. The people I have directly under me, whether it's equipment manager, social media people, they're all doing their responsibilities. So when the players arrive or the coaches arrive, it's just about them doing the game. Locker rooms taken care of far away. And, we try and really run it like a professional organization. And that second part of it's really, everyone, those guys who are, maybe college players seeing, stars of yesterday that, had those pro runs and, they're working those 9-to-5s. It's just really, hitting that maximum again of, if these guys are giving it everything and this is their one moment to, let everything kind of go by the wayside and still relive, the game they love, then there's no reason I can't meet that same standard.
Expectation for you has always been there. I mean, you've made it to the last game of the year, won titles in the past, all that kind of stuff. How do you keep that expectation from weighing down on you too much? Because pressure can go in a couple of different directions. How do you keep that pressure and the pressure of expectation as a positive to where it doesn't weigh you down every season?
Again, I think it goes back to each individual piece that if we leave the players to just playing the game, we leave the coaches to just coaching the game, we leave the owners to just being owners and away from, sticking their heads in the locker room and all those pieces, we're able to worry about one game at a time. And I remember, 2-3 weeks ago now, when we had we had the regional semi, we had the conference final, we had the regional semi, and then we had the regional final itself. In between, right, we had that huge weather delay. So we go from a Saturday game, Wednesday game that didn't end until 12:30, and then we have to play again that next Saturday. It was we really were able to focus in on one specific game at a time, rotate the roster, get the most out of every guy possible, and not worry about, how can we hold ourselves or thinking beyond. And when we've really been able to think about one game at a time, like we talked about earlier in the show, of that first game of the season, we've been able to really jump at it and not look too far ahead.
FC Motown GM Gregory Irwin hanging out with us here as the eastern half of the NPSL title game coming up this weekend that they get to host here on the morning show here on the SDH network. When you look at what FC Motown has been able to build over the last couple of seasons, say the last 4 or 5 years, or since you've been there, let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. What was the biggest lesson that you took from last year's team that applied to this year's team that has applied to this year's run? It could be something off the field. It could be something on the field. It could be something from a meeting room or a conference room or something where you're, walking the streets and you had a revelation. It's like, oh, yeah, that. What was the biggest lesson from last year that you got to apply to this year that helped you with the successes here in 24?
I think it was really balance. There's a lot of great players in our area. There are guys who, say it's time to leave the pro game and come into to this level of the game. But it really has to be balance. It has to be guys commingling. We were really fortunate to have more college guys, honestly, in this year's run than we did prior. And it really worked. Another really important feature, and it was, apparent this year's Open Cup that it had to be prior years. We were playing a professional team far earlier than we would have in prior years. And had we not had kind of a lesson from players that were, had we not had a lesson early on in the year, we probably wouldn't have done a facelift or seen how do we need to improve from an organizational standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, from a player standpoint to get to that first game. Had all those pieces kind of not folded together at the right time, maybe, we play an amateur side first round and then we get to a second round and say, we had a good run by playing a professional team and a very, very good professional team, a very good professional organization in round one that went on to the last 16 or 8. We probably wouldn't have had, hit the nuclear button and say, we really need to fix this up big time.
When you have a club that is as successful as yours, and, it is something that while it may take on a life of its own, it's always constant work. Everyone may sit there and look at the NPSL and go, okay, well, it's only from, March to August, when it's far more than that. It's the other months out of the year where all of this work happens to where March through August looks as easy as it is. How much work is it? Because, I would say that operating a franchise these days, it's almost like watching, it's the old analogy of throwing a stick in the lake and having your golden retriever go chase it. And so the golden retriever gets the stick and brings it back to shore. What you see above the shore is the dog with the stick in its teeth and everything's calm above the waterline. But what you don't see is the dog doing all this to make sure that he gets back to shore. Mm-hmm. What is the swim like for you and FC Motown in the months that are not on the field to make sure that everything is as swimmingly, well as it is during playing season?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like myself, like a lot of other guys that are doing this is what we do on the side, right? I have, my own responsibilities in an office in Manhattan during the day, and for better or for worse, my phone rings daily, especially this week setting up for the national final. It's indicative of everything going on. It's a full-time responsibility that you're somehow cramming into a part-time or thing on the side. It's a lot. Let's put it there. But I put it in, and this hasn't, we didn't have this circumstance this year. But like I said, like 2 years ago, right, when we flew out to Tulsa and then we're hosting the national final that following week, when you're in college or you're a professional and, you have an endless support staff and things are kind of planned times in ahead, it was, game ended on that the team we were playing the national semi or national quarter on that Sunday. And it was, we have to fly out by Friday, and you're budgeting, you're getting the flight stuff done, you're getting the hotel, you're getting the logistics, all those little pieces that you don't think about that you have a team to do. Again, if you're in the professional ranks, you're in the college ranks, it gets smushed down into, one individual. It's a massive ask. And it's really indicative of, amateur soccer on the whole, or lower level soccer is an incredible amount of work beyond the professional ranks that people really have no capability or no idea of in reality.
And that's why I wanted to ask about it, because you're talking about staffs that are infinitesimal by comparison to pro staffs and things like that. How many different job titles do you think you have? Even though your business card may say general manager, how many different job titles do you think you have inside the organization? How many different ones have you touched this year?
Oh, I'll put it like this. I remember showing up for the first Open Cup game when we played against NYCFC's MLS Next Pro game, setting out the locker room, folding the jerseys, whatever. And I was, gladly there, a good amount of time over. I opened the door and it was almost like a sea of people. It was a sea of people coming out of the van to set up their locker room. But it was probably about 1 to 8.
Okay. So that would fit.
And that's just the people that were there before the technical staff got there. A lot. Let's see. GM, equipment manager. We have an equipment manager now. Director of operations, media production, player liaison, coach liaison. Like, it goes on. We're being generous. Babysitter.
I'm looking at the back of the business card. That's getting full pretty quick. Actually, two more questions, and thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, I'd say 1 to 8.
Okay,
1 to
8.
7, 1 to 8.
For someone who's going to be watching FC Motown for the first time going up against El Farolito this weekend, how would you describe style of play? If things are going well for us, we are doing blank. I guess it's the soccer version of match game. How would you describe what you guys do on the field?
Yeah, I would say you're going to enjoy the game. This is as good as you can get for amateur soccer. There are a lot of guys in both rosters who deserve to be in the professional ranks and are doing this for a variety of reasons. You're going to have a really packed atmosphere at Drew down in Madison, and you're going to enjoy a really good game.
Okay, so my second question I'm going to hold because Santiago Lopez is hanging out with us. He's in the green room. I'm going to go ahead and bring Coach Lopez in because now that he is on this half of the planet, Coach Lopez, John here, Greg Irwin, the GM for FC Motown. So it is a three-way dance for one question in the crossover section. First off, glad you made it safely. Thanks for coming on the morning show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's nice and humid over here on this side of the country. It's a beautiful region. Yeah, we're very, very happy to be on this side. First time we play in the East Coast that I can remember. Actually, probably the first time in the club's history to play on the East Coast. But yeah, we're very happy.
All right. So now that we're in the handoff portion of the program, let me ask you this, Greg. Do you have a question for Coach Lopez about El Farolito, about the business aspect, about NPSL in general? If you could ask Coach Lopez any question about El Farolito, what would it be?
Yeah, which of the restaurants do I have to hit when I travel over?
Definitely the 24th and Mission location, because next door we have a bar that is open till 2 a.m. We serve margaritas. There's a sports bar. There's billiards. There's TV screens. There's everything. It's a great energy, and that's the original one that started in '83.
There we go. And so then, Coach Lopez, if you had a question for GM Gregory Irwin, so if El Farolito has a question for FC Motown, what's your question?
Where do you get such amazing players? You have two teams, USL2 and then NPSL. That's amazing.
Yeah, 26. You would think I'm 36. I'm losing my hair. No, we're fortunate, and I think when you're in really hotbeds, like yourself in your part of the country and in our part of the country, when you push down barriers to entry and just let guys play it, it's not just what the title is on their resume, where they've played before. When you let guys come out and just play, and you could be a kid went to a big academy and play at a big school. You can be a guy, and as we mentioned earlier from John, that works, a real blue collar job, works at the airport, works as a FedEx truck. When you just let guys play the game, the game lets people show who are supposed to show. And I think it's really indicative of our club. And I think it's indicative of what people really should know about, football in this country, and, how our teams like us can make it to this stage of the competition, not worrying about resumes and things like that.
Yeah, I agree. Amazing.
All right. So one fun question before I let Greg go. Greg, as a GM, who would you rather take to play for your team? Holland, Mbappe, or Bellingham?
I have to know what these guys are like behind the scenes, because you'd be surprised as a person who had the pro ranks for a bit and things like that. The greatest players, right? They can perform on the field, but for where I am in my role, if I have to get on a flight next year to El Farolito, I have to know that this guy's going to be willing to show up at the airport, not miss the flight and all those things. But all three, gosh, I love a counter presser, so let's go with Bellingham.
All right, so there you go, Greg. May the weekend and may the championship game be a fantastic hosting experience for you. Thanks for dropping by the morning show. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Thank you, John and Santiago. I'll see you soon. Take care. All the best, and congrats on making it this far.
Thank you. Same.
All right, Coach Lopez, first off, thanks for coming by. Who would you rather take to play for your squad? Holland, Mbappe, or Bellingham?
Probably none. Yeah, they're amazing talents for sure, but I agree with Greg. We don't know. I don't know how they are personally, and I just can't make that decision, especially talking about millions of dollars.
No doubt about it. So what has this ride been like for you? And I mean that, I guess, both figuratively and literally, coming over to the East Coast for a title game. What's the season been like for you?
Yeah, it's been for me. It's not a surprise in some ways, but it's great that the players have responded very well to the training method that we've been try to implement this throughout the year. They've applied it very well throughout the season. They've been very consistent. They've been very healthy. They've been very professional. I think throughout the entire year, we only had one injury, and that injury only lasted 4 days. Another injury was probably for like a month. So there's been 2 injuries throughout the entire season, and everybody's been very professional, and they've been preparing for each match week by week. So we're very fortunate to still be here and have a complete roster.
If I had told you at the beginning of the season, all things being equal, that you would be here in the last match of the year in the NPSL, what would you have told me?
I would have said no, because in the previous years we've lost in the West Region Finals. It's very unpredictable what could happen in the last minutes. In 2022, we were up one goal in 93rd minute. We tied, went to PKs, lost. Then the last year we're winning 2-0, and in minute 90, they 2-1. They scored, and in 103rd minute they tied us, and we lost in extra time. So very unpredictable. I couldn't guess anything, but I'm very happy that the players showed up, and they've been taking care of business every week.
Not that we're doing play-by-play or anything, but Morocco still leads Team USA in the 56th minute 1-0 in the quarterfinal in Paris. Not that we're doing play-by-play or anything like that. We're just giving updates as to what's going on here in real time. When you look back at what you have been able to build there with El Farolito in the NPSL, how difficult is it to maintain this level of success that you have been able to build, knowing that you've gotten all these deep runs that you've been talking about? How difficult is it to maintain this level of success out west?
Yeah, it's extremely difficult, because what I've noticed in the past, in my experience, one player could have a great season, and then the next season they could be not so well. There's very few players that can maintain that level, that intensity, and obviously that professionalism. But we've been very fortunate that I discovered this core group of players that this is their third year, and we're talking about like 7 to 10 players, and they've invited other friends and recommendations, and we've added on and maintained the group at a certain intensity and level. And the new players that have came on have adapted very well to that energy, and it's worked out very well. So it's very hard. It's very hard to create a core group, and then obviously maintain it with respect and good discipline.
What's it like to have that kind of a family? And I mean that with both capital F and lowercase f. What's it like to have that kind of a family that's attached to El Farolito as it is, and then bring in others under the tent who understand what it means to be a part and wear that name on their chest?
Yeah, it's well, a lot of these guys love to compete at a high level. They want to continue in their college, continue, they want to play professional and continue in their development programs, and perform at a highest level. So it's easy. I mean, it's easy to identify those players who really are hungry for that. So they identify with the high performance and the responsibility that is to be part of this club, because every time that we play a team, they know they're competing against a very difficult team that is going to try their best. So it's quite interesting to work with these type of players that they want to perform at a highest level, and it's just great. And not only that, great athletes are great people. They're everybody has adapted very well, and outside of the pitch, we've created a great bond. And I'm going to give credit to the entire players, not myself. I managed the group in a certain way, but themselves, they create their own family, and it's been amazing to see the the growth and the stability of that.
For someone who hasn't seen you play this year, how would you describe style of play, level of attack? Obviously, film is out when it comes to opposition and things like that. But for someone who hasn't seen you play, how would you best describe what you do offensively and defensively on the pitch?
I think it could be high intensity and technical. We have some players that are very technical and some players that are very physical. So we like to press high, and we also like to counter. So we adapt to the situation. We like to play long ball. We like to play out of the back as well. I always believe in the game always presents you different tasks and different tests. I believe that a good group of a good team should encounter, and obviously it should know how to manage different situations of the game.
How would you best describe you? We've talked about family both on and off the pitch, but how would you best describe El Farolito's place in the environment there in the Bay Area on the whole? Because I would imagine that the family atmosphere on the field brings a family atmosphere from off the field, and those that want to come and see you on a weekly basis, they understand what is there when it comes to El Farolito. How would you describe your team as a part of the fabric of the soccer environment there in the Bay Area and its place in it?
Great question. Well, we never really do consider us the best club in the area because there's obviously professional clubs like the Earthquakes. There's Fresno Fuego in the Central Valley, and then you have the Roots. But for us, I think we consider ourselves part of the Latino football culture. And the 80s, the club started in the 80s, and it was one of those powerhouse Latino clubs in the San Francisco League, which you had a lot of Europeans and American professional players at that time. So I think they know us that we're one of the clubs that gives the opportunity to new immigrants in the country that want to continue playing, and they just couldn't stay in the country, and they're in around the area, and they have a place to still compete at a high performance and professional environment.
What's it like to be that beacon, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, in the soccer community and in the community in general there in the Bay Area? What's it like to be that coming together point?
It's a lot of responsibility because you have to show good values. Regardless if you win or lose, you need to show a good face. There's people that some kids, some new teenagers are looking at us, and we have to show the good example to try to, transmit the good football culture and good manners in the game, because a lot of people love to win, but not a lot know how to win, and same thing as losing.
How difficult is it to run this club 12 months out of the year? And I asked Greg the same question about FC Motown, because I know a lot of folks will sit there and they'll look at the NPSL and they'll go, oh, yeah, March through August, when in reality it's a 12-month thing, but you only see March through August because of, that's when the schedule is. What's it like doing something like this and keeping it alive for 12 months, even when the schedule is only a few?
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of things behind the scene, organization, obviously preparation. On my side, obviously you have to continue your development as a coach, as a leader. A lot of courses, a lot of reading. That's in the whole soccer phase. But the organizational people in the club, that I'm very fortunate that they support with my decisions and my vision, and they help me out with obviously with the funding some things of like trainings and gears, soccer fields and all that, because San Francisco's not very cheap, so it's always a struggle. So we try to have more trainings involved, but unfortunately, I need a break. I need my time off as well. I need to prepare myself. And to perform well, you need to rest well as well. And I'm very, very grateful for my family that supports me with this journey.
And you get ready for the last game of the year in the NPSL, taking on FC Motown tomorrow. Manager and head coach Santiago Lopez from El Farolito as always, it's great to see the story continue to grow. And now that you have told us all that we're supposed to go to the one at 24th and Mission, when we go to the Bay Area, that's the first one we go to. I now have the advice. I have it written down, and I'm ready to go. So it's fantastic to catch up with you, and good luck in the title game in the NPSL. We will catch up with you soon, my friend. Be safe, be healthy, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and see you soon on 24th and Mission.
You got it. That's Santiago Lopez from El Farolito. And they are one of the great stories in the sport.